Hi, my name is Nazia Rafi. I work with leaders who are good at what they do, but suddenly find themselves in a position where people don't respond to them the way they expected. And one of the most confusing phases of leadership is the first 90 days, because that's when you start noticing something very uncomfortable. Your team is listening, but they are not following. You give instructions, but things don't move as per the expectation or as they should. You repeat yourself continuously and still nothing changes. Somewhere inside, a question starts forming in your heart. Why am I being taken? Why am I not being taken seriously? Or why am I being taken for granted? So most leaders assume this is a communication problem. Maybe I need to be more clearer. Maybe I need to be more stricter. But in the first 90 days, it's never or rarely about communication. It is something more subtle. It is about how your leadership is being read by your team members. Because your team is not just listening to what you're saying, but they're also observing how consistent you are in your in your communication, in your action, in your expectation. How do you respond to pressure? So, are you firm or you give in, or what exactly do you do when you are under pressure? And to and what do you tolerate? How much you tolerate? These are things that always your team is reading as you become a leader in the first 90 days. And based on that, they actually decide how seriously to take you. And unfortunately, here's the uncomfortable truth. Your team doesn't decide your authority in that one big moment. They decide in small, repeated signals. If in case you have kept your ground, they take your leadership seriously. But if you give in time after time after time, then you're not able, they don't take you very seriously. So the first time a deadline slips, and you don't address it very clearly, or it can be the first time someone pushes you back, and do you soften your stance? The first time you explain, instead of holding your position, did you over explain? These may feel very small issues to you as a leader, but to your team, these are very clear signals. Signals that say, let's see how far we can stretch this person, how far we can stretch this particular leader. And this is where most leaders misread the situation. Most leaders think that my team is not disciplined, or my team does not listen to me. But often, the system is simply responding to the leader. So in the first 90 days, your team is not working with you. They're actually studying you. They're asking themselves these questions. Is this person consistent? Do they mean what do they say? Do they hold their ground? So these are the important questions that they ask, and they actually closely observe you. And the most important question they also try to understand is what happens if we don't follow? Your response to that question becomes your leadership identity. It's not your title, it's not your experience, but your behavior. Remember, leadership is not established when things are going well. It's never about when everything is hunky dory, everything's going perfect. That's not the time when leadership is defined. It is established and it is defined when things are not followed. So, where does it go wrong? This is a question I'm sure all of you are asking yourself. Let's look at the most where most leaders fall, or what are the mistakes typically leaders do. The first thing they do is they repeat themselves. Okay, um, there's an instruction that has to be given, and the team does not follow. So what does the leader do? They repeat themselves over and over and over again. Maybe more clearly, maybe more loudly, more firmly. But remember, repetition does not build authority. Second mistake that most leaders do is they over explain. They start justifying every decision. You're hoping that people will understand. And you also start over explaining, often, which kind of gives the signal to the team member about your uncertainty, lack of confidence. Third mistake that most leaders do is they avoid that particular moment when the actual pushback is happening. Typically, most leaders do something. They let go, right? Something like, it's okay, I will address it later. So your one step back is 3 steps forward for the team members to know that they can stretch you and you are not consistent and that you can be pushed over. And that later is where your authority quietly slips. So what do you think you should do instead? Okay, what can you do differently? So one of the things that I recommend to most leaders when they start off their leadership journey is, one, start noticing your own micro responses. So it's not about big changes, big behavior, big actions. It's never about those big moments. It's always about small repetitive habits that you do. So basically the small ones, the magic lies in the small ones. So it can be, do you pause or do you react? So are you a person who immediately reacts, becomes defensive, or are you a person more in control? Second, do you stay clear or you become soften? Okay. When I say, do you stay clear, are you sure and do you consistently stand with what you have set as an expectation? Or in your mind as well as in your behavior, the team member understands that, okay, this person can be pushed over. Even if I don't do it, I'm sure my leader will do it because he wants to save his own credibility. Do you hold your ground or do you adjust quickly? How often do you say yes? Right? And which situations do you say yes? All this matters. And remember, all these small little moments add up to question or establish your authority. The second thing which I recommend most of the first time leaders, at least in the first 90 days, to do is don't rush to fill the discomfort. One of the things that you have to do as a leader is, it's okay to be have discomfort in silence. When something is not followed, typically most leaders rush in to fix it immediately. Instead of that, pause and let the moment sit. Try to understand from the team member what exactly went wrong. Okay, so the most important thing is, don't rush in to fix the problem. You need to ensure that your team members get this done. And the third, this particular thing is very important. This particular pause of not rushing to fix will help you communicate more than you fixing the situation for your team member. The third thing, which is very important, is be clear with your expectations and then see what happens. Okay. So just like your team member learns from your experiences, your behaviors, and your action, it's also very important that you observe your team members and see what works, what doesn't work. Okay. So you don't need to say things multiple times. That is something that you need to avoid. Say it very clearly the first time around, and then step back and see what happens. If there are questions, address those questions. It should not be a situation where either you are over explaining the same thing over and over again or repeatedly sharing the same information, because it's not going to have the same impact. So you need to ensure that you become more aware about your behavior and don't focus more on fixing things. And here's where everything changes very, very slowly, but surely it changes. Instead of asking, why is my team not taking me seriously? Start asking, what signals am I sharing or what signals am I consistently giving that is giving a different communication to my team members? That's very important. That's the first change that you need to do as a team member. I'll repeat it. Stops asking, why is my team not taking me seriously enough? Start asking, what am I doing that is giving a different communication to my team members? Simple thing. Leadership is not about declaring who you are. It is something that people experience you. They will go through experiences, they will go through your behaviors, they'll go through your consistent habits. So you need to be very mindful about that. And in the first 90 days, which is very, very important, is you are quietly teaching people how to respond to you. So slowly but surely, you will have figured out how to understand team members by observing them and also changing your response to them. So very important, which I'm going to re-emphasize. If something feels off right now, something is not working off right now, do not rush to fix. That's the biggest mistake that you can do as a leader. Okay. What you need to do whenever things go haywire or things are not going as per plan, take a pause, look, analyze what's happening, and then look at your own pattern. What is the communication that is being sent to your team members? What is the communication and patterns your team members are sharing with you? And then accordingly take a call as to what exactly you need to change, and do you need to change your communication, set expectations clearly at the first go, being very firm with your expectations. These are something that you need to evaluate and be very firm and consistent about. Remember, sometimes the shift in leadership starts with one small behavior. So if this particular video made you reflect on your own leadership, stay with me on this particular channel. I will keep breaking down real life leadership situations similar to this, the ones no one prepares you for, but every leader needs to be aware of. So what is very important? This version, what is very important is, as a leader, it is your responsibility to make yourself seen the way you want to lead the entire team and the way they respect and follow your authority without question. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.